Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mo, M-O-N-A. This inaugural lecture in the C.C. Ono Memorial Lecture Series is titled C.C. Ono Vindicated by History. C.C. Ono Vindicated by History. Wawa gburugburu ndị ọma ekenekwa m unu dejenu alụanụ ndị Igbo kwezuonu nke a na-eto onye ya zaa nke onye chiri ya zere a sị na ezu ụka ahụ eri udene atọtuo ngịga Igbo ga-adị. Almost everything we learn in history, religions, arts, and sciences is about the life and times of great men and women. With the benefits of hindsight, history presents the facts and builds stories. History places the stories and events in proper perspectives by highlighting their impacts on our worldviews and on our social values. Owole Nnamdi Azikiwe notably said in 1983, "History shall vindicate the just." For these words to hold true, we must tell our stories our way. Otherwise, other societies will tell our stories their way. Everyone with whom I talked about this lecture had a story to tell about the great man. I learned so much I could have written a book. So while we have those who knew him and still recall his deeds, let us record for history some aspects of the man we called C.C. Ono, the famed father of a nation I call Wawalandia, a nation of peoples who refuse to accept awful acts and bad actors. These people who use Wa for no, not Mba or Olo, stretch from Agwoka through the Udi hills of Enugu to the grasslands of Abakaliki and beyond Abomege. Let us talk about a man whose actions spoke and still speak louder than a million voices. Okome Nango Anyine Fungu, the great spirit of the land that grows great trees, or as some fondly call him, Papa Bianca. Chief Christian Chukwuma Ono, C.C. Ono, was born on Wednesday, April 27, 1927, in Enugu, the hilltop community from which Enugu City got its name. On the other side of the world, in Alabama, USA, Coretta Scott was born on the same day. She would grow up to become an American activist and wife of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. C.C. Ono was born to a famous father, Chief Gabriel Okwo Ono, as noted by Delibe Onyama's book on his famous grandfather, Onyama Neke. Chief Gabriel Ono's magnificent mansion in Enugu was a landmark and still a sight to behold after 1 century. The construction of such an edifice in early 20th century was amazing. Not many people had imagined that Chief Gabriel Ono was that rich. It was no wonder that urban legend considered the mansion a masonry of mermaids. If you think that C.C. Ono grew up in opulence and had a smooth ride in life, then you must know the story of the man whose calling, like that of Coretta and Martin Luther King in USA, was handiwork, honesty, humanity, and humility. Orphaned at 8 years old, the man too fell on an older kinsman to do the daddy deeds. Young C.C. Ono attended Anglican St. Peter's Primary School, Co-Camp Enugu, adjacent the Catholic St. Patrick's Primary School and Parish. He continued his education at the College of Immaculate Conception, CIC, a prestigious Catholic high school for boys located in the Owani quarters of Enugu and a walking distance from Co-Camp. On completion of his secondary education, CC went into real estate and construction business. He also worked as a produce inspector and livestock trader. He hustled, unlike brilliant young men from wealthy families. Evidently, he saved enough money to travel abroad and study law. In 1957, at 30, he earned a law degree from the University of Wales at Aberystwyth. Back to base, Barrister C.C. Ono stepped into politics. In 1959, in the run-up to the independence of Nigeria, the people of Enugu constituency elected him to the Federal House of Reps in a by-election. The issues at home demanded his presence. Honorable C.C. Ono joined the board of Nigerian Coal Corporation as its first indigenous chair. He was also on the railway board. Chairman C.C. Ono desired to redress the 1940s ill treatment of Enugu coal miners, which triggered the push for independence. And he also wanted to look into the marginalization of Wawa people. Wawa was coined from Wa, an Igbo dialect for no, making Wawa, that is no, a no-way rejection of abuse and deceit. Non-natives deployed Wawa as a derogatory term for folks from Enugu and environs. To neutralize the negative insinuation, Ono embraced the term and turned it into a rallying refrain, a mantra of self-confidence, Iwanya, and self-sufficiency. Imagine that MLK in USA thought about it, forgot about Negro, and recast and own the other N word. Ono did just that. One big problem was solved. On Saturday, July 15, 1966, the politics of Nigeria changed forever. The first military coup brought back to Enugu Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu as the military governor of Eastern Region. After the pogroms, the murderous military mutiny, and the failure of Aburi Accord in 1967, Biafra was declared on Tuesday, May 30, 1967. In continuation of the marginalization of Enugu natives, Odumegwu Ojukwu appointed someone from Owerri to represent Enugu province. Ono protested. The people agreed. The head of state of Biafra bowed. Although Enugu city was sacked early in the war, Ono remained the administrator of Enugu province till the end of the war. During the war, Ono saw the continued marginalization of Wawa people in Biafra. With Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simon Onwu, the first Igbo Western trained medical doctor, academicians, and top lawyers of Wawa extraction, no one from the 4 Wawa provinces, 4 out of 20 Biafran provinces, was deemed fit to serve in the ruling cabinet of Biafra. Ono and about 40 others looked beyond the war, win or lose. The mission to create Wawa state was born. Besides C.C. Ono, others included Barrister Enichonye, Justice Ezozobu, Chiefs Samuel Mbada, Frank Onyeke, D.O. Namani, and Professor Godwin Odenigwe. Don Eze rendered a great account of the meeting in his 2019 book, Enugu and the Making of Nigeria. The war ended on Monday, January 12th, 1970. 3 months later, on March 20th, 1970, Ono's group petitioned General Yakubu Gowon, requesting for the creation of Wawa State out of East Central State. The administrator of East Central State, Okpa Besika, was totally against the move, and he persecuted the campaigners. Ono persisted. Asika left with Gowon in 1975. In 1976, Ono and others came close to closing the deal on Wawa State under the Murtala Mohammed regime. It failed, reportedly cancelled at the last minute. It was a sabotage by those who feared a phantom retaliation by Wawa people. The 12-state structure morphed into 19 states, signaling the skewed number of states between north and south of Nigeria. The fake fear of abandoned properties in Igbo land cost the Igbo an extra state to this day. Ono posited that more states will help Igbo areas to develop. At the same time, it will allow our people to refocus from fights for fairness to achieving their full potentials. It was a simple position of equity and progress for all, a position many Wawa people understood. Ono became the face of Wawa state, the de facto driver. He challenged succeeding military administrators on their excesses in grabbing lands and intimidating people. These dictators and their obedient civil servants deployed divisive disinformation to tarnish Ono's name as a Wawa separatist who wanted to dispossess other natives of their lands and properties. Sadly, this petty perception still stands in some sections of Igbo society. Nothing could be further from the truth. Ono owned lands in Enugu and outside. He simply wanted a fair shake for every Igbo person, every Nigerian. He believed that the creation of more states in the Igbo nation would bring better and faster political and socio-economic developments. He was so right, no doubt about it. Ono was a founding member of Club 13, a socio-political club in Enugu. The club morphed into the Nigerian People's Party. Unsatisfied with the goings-on in the group of now called the MPP, he joined the National Party of Nigeria, NPN. In 1979, Ono contested for its gubernatorial candidacy. He beat then political rookie Dr. Alex Ekweme in the primaries, but he nominated Ekweme for the vice president position, which was zoned to the Igbo. Thanks to Zeke's influence, Ono lost to Chief Jim Nwobodo. MPN, however, won at the federal level. President Shehu Shagari appointed Ono chairman of the Nigerian Mining Corporation and later in 1982, chairman of the Associated Ore Mines. The 1983 rematch election between Ono and Nwobodo was contentious and malicious, characterized by intimidations, violence, and accusations of malpractice. Odumegwu now Ikemba Nnewi was back from exile in Cote d'Ivoire. He joined MPN. The numbers showed that MPP retained the tenancy of Lion Building. Ono disagreed. He went to court, up to the Supreme Court. Ono was sworn in as governor of Anambra State in October. Interestingly, some citizens from the south, now Anambra State, who had lost their lands to Zeke's MPP government, got them back within weeks of Ono's administration. And Ono was supposed to seize lands from Anambra people. In November, a domestic flight from Lagos crashed at Emene, Enugu. The governor's daughter, Josephine Ono, who was returning from her doctoral program in law at Hull, UK, was on board. Still mourning the loss of his beloved daughter, General Muhammadu Buhari sacked the Second Republic on December 31st, 1983. As with many other political leaders, Innocent Ono suffered the indignity of Buhari's detention. Ono did not back down. He kept fighting for equity in all spheres of political life and justice for Enugu citizens. Before the Third Republic, Ono was the only prominent politician and courageous enough to call military administrators to order. He did not spare any of them, especially those whose penchant for hostile acquisition of prime properties in Enugu exceeded decent bounds. The crushing marginalization of Wawa people by military muscle men propelled Ono to rally others to continue the quest for Wawa state. Finally, on Tuesday, August 27, 1991, the federal government of General Ibrahim Babangida created Enugu State. It was like Independence Day all over again. The people flocked at Enugu to pay homage to their accomplished and satisfied leader. Ono declared that his eyes had seen the glory of God and that he was ready to return to his maker. The marginalization that Ono contended for years was evident with the creation of Enugu State. Senior civil servants were predominantly from now new Anambra State. They left a huge hole It was in the spirit of such an appalling lopsidedness and imbalance that Ono asked those who gathered to pay homage to him that the first governor of the new Enugu state should come from Nsukka Cultural Zone. Ono was supposed to be the king in waiting, but in the spirit of Ohanwezue, he would not touch the crown. The desire for equal access to prosperity is strong among the Igbo. The closest English equivalent for Ohanwezue is equity. Ohanwezue ala dị mma, ala dị mma, ọbata onye ọbụla ọfụma, udo adị, ọganiru esochie. This is the Igbo essence of equity, the lack of which makes Nigeria retrogressive. Truly, when the Third Republic dawned in 1992, Dr. Okosileze Nwodo of Ukehe in Nsukka socio-cultural sphere became the first governor of Enugu State, comprising Abakaliki area of present Ebonyi State. The Afibo area, previously in now-defunct Imo State, was carved into Abia State. As with Ono's tenure in the second half of the Second Republic, Nwodo's tenure too was truncated by the ascendancy of General Sani Abacha, who killed the Third Republic and the dreams of MKO Abiola. Chief Sisi Ono made no convincing attempt to be a part of the Fourth Republic. He knew to pass the torch and watch. He decided to focus more on his business and on keeping land grabbers at bay in Enugu. He seemed to know every stone in Enugu. If anyone fell out of place, Ono would head to the court. His activities kept governors and commissioners on their toes. Reportedly, when told that a governor was focusing efforts on his home base, Ono supposedly said, "Shahaloye, let him be." This probably formulated phrase conveys that decent development anywhere in and around Enugu is welcome. The principle is that another governor will come from another part of the state and develop that other part of the state for the good of all. Hence, the genesis of zoning or rotational gubernatorial position in Enugu is entrenched in ensuring equity. Chief Sisi Ono was all about equity, justice, peace, and progress. Being the son of a great chief, it is hard to believe that Ono was a self-made man. Just 21 in 1948, he secured a contract to build colliery quarters at Udiside in Enugu. On his return to Nigeria from Britain 10 years later, he continued to acquire lands across the country and to build houses. He set up the Rokono Property Company Limited in his popular building at number 7 Silversmith Avenue in Camp Enugu. As a managing director in the early 1970s, he operated from the building overlooking Tinkers and the cinema theater owned by Lebanese Mr. Solomon, whom we all popularly called Operator. His estates were many: Unu Quarters in Jare, Enugu, Atokonano, and Nan Enugu South, the hotel at Hilltop, his native Ngo community, Reno Drinks at Nightmare Corner, etc. He had farms in present-day Anambra State and properties in Lagos and the new federal capital at Abuja. Hoodlums burnt the farm at Amansi near Oka, Anambra State capital, during the violence of 1983 elections, which Ono won, and he never sought revenge, even when his properties were destroyed. On his return from UK, Sisi Ono met and married perhaps the most eligible and most beautiful bachelorette in town. Caroline hailed from nearby Eke community. Athletic, brilliant, and beautiful, she schooled in Enugu and trained as a teacher at the popular Catholic Holy Rosary College. Undeterred by the deep Catholic Anglican contradiction, the staunch Anglican Sisi married the compelling Catholic Caroline. They were blessed with children, born between the late 1950s to early 1970s. Josephine Gabriel Nuzo, the British writer and the queen of African horror genre. Stella Lillian, Nigerian ambassador to Namibia. Bianca, Christian Jr., and Joseph. Amongst his grandchildren are Candice Onyama, the award-winning British producer-director, Christian C. Ono III, and now social media starlet Chineme Odumegwu Ojukwu. Her Excellency Chief Mrs. Caroline Chinwolu Ono, also known as Miliako, died in June 2016. I was buried on August 5th, 2016. Christian Chukwuma Ono died on Tuesday, May 5, 2009, at his Enugu home. He was 82. His daughter, Her Excellency Iyom Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu, former Nigerian ambassador to Spain, recounted his last moments as being actually very peaceful. His former political opponent, Senator Jim Nwobodo, chaired the burial planning committee to honor the man who saw beyond his years. The governors of Southeast states attended the July 3, 2009 state funeral. Sullivan Chime, Enugu; Martin Elechi, Ebonyi; Theodore Oji, Abia; Ikedi Hakim, Imo; and Peter Obi, Anambra. Others include VP, former Vice President Alex Kweme, Senate Presidents Ken Nnamani and Pius Anyim, Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu, former Governors Jim Nwobodo, Kwesili Ezenwodo, Alison Madeke, Habat Obi Eze, and Chris Ngige, Senator Ben Collins Obi, Ambassador George Obiozo, Chief Mbazulika Amechi, PG John Nyanwodo, etc. They were all there. On Saturday, July 4th, son-in-law Dim Chukwemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu led the creme de la creme of Igbo nation to a traditional condolence visit. Often, we shower the great departed with torrents of tributes and move on to face the challenges of our existence. The most befitting tribute to Chief Sisi Ono will be to rename Nightmare Corner after him. Let us call the new urban area Ama Ono. The term Night Mile has lost the accuracy of its mileage with the express road over Ugwuonyama. Also, it will soon become a suburb of Enugu, the coast city on the foothills of Udi Hills, and covering the village of Enugu, connected by the serpentine named after Mr. Milken, the Canadian engineer who supervised the construction. Sidebar: Milken Hill does not exist. There is a serpentine, a macadamized and meandering road named after Mr. Milken. That's Milken Road, not Milken Hill. Thank you. Ono was the champion of Wawaism, total rejection of injustice. His last work focused on Enugu, but he abhorred injustice everywhere. He did not hesitate in applying all necessary and possible means in the pursuit of justice. When a state court ruled against him in 1983, he stood his ground in the court premises and forced the immediate release of the judgment. Despite the divisive politics of 1983, Ono jumped into action when a military governor attempted to auction the home of then Buhari-jailed Chimwobodo in Enugu. Justice Anthony Anagolo of the Supreme Court once said, Christian Ono was always fighting injustice, but he would not mind using unjust methods to fight injustice. Hey, Sisi Ono was blunt and practical, so it was easy to judge his method as unconventional or unorthodox. He hated injustice with a passion, especially when the powerful oppresses the powerless. Ono chose to have a better and bigger impact on his own locality, the people of Enugu and the virus. The impacts of his successes go beyond Wawaland. We now use Ono's marginalization mantra without blinking. We now call it Igbo marginalization. Abia and Ebonyi follow Enugu in rotating power among the zones. Anambra North used it to get Peter Obi's attention. Our zone is using the same equity argument as Olu zone appears to take the lion's share of power. In the heat of North-South dichotomy during the defunct Anambra days, Ono did not recoil from calling the South Agbeenu and welcome being called Wawa. He promoted Wawa as West African wisest area. To remind folks that they stood on the shoulders of giants, he wrote about the momentous meeting between Ezonyamaneke and Obioko Sinonicha in 1928, when he was only 1 year old. He did not stop at sanitizing the senseless stigma surrounding Okpawawa. He went on to promote and popularize the hotcake delicacy. He did not just preach it. He would park his Benz at a strategic site on Nightmare Corner, purchase and enjoy the grub in full view of all passers-by. Today, Okpawawa is no longer a Wawa-only delicacy. Ndi Igbo and Nigerians now eat and enjoy the healthy, delicious delicacy openly and in intercity luxury buses. Ono did not subscribe to suffocating bureaucracy. Those who visited him at his Ngo home were always surprised by the ease of entry. When he was not there at home, he could be found in the village, socializing at the local market. When he was governor, he went to work from home like everyone else. He encouraged everyone to speak Igbo freely in every dialect. He was at ease with Ngo dialect. His children too. Besides the government and maybe Chiefs GODN and Chief Elias Aneke Chime, Ono was probably the biggest individual landlord in Enugu and the most magnanimous. He was known to have given out houses to faithful workers, including non-Wawa workers. The Christmas rent forgiveness was a tradition at Rokono Properties Limited. Ono ensured regular maintenance and related to his tenants like family members. Chief Sisi Ono did not fight little people. He would not take tenants to court. He fought heads of government and those who oppress the poor. This lecture series must continue to hold annually for us to tell the tales of Wawa world. If we let this event evaporate, we will read the wrong versions told by others. We must document facts and testimonies about great personalities from before Onyama to after Ono. We must stop the foolish fallacy that Ono was hateful and hurtful. Whom did Ono ever hate? Whom did he ever hurt? When did the demand for equal rights become hate speech? How? We must continue the quest for equity and demand our rights. Always. Governor Sullivan Chime supported Adada State movement for equity. Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi surely supports for equity. If a Titi state we want, Ike Kuramadu and Pius Anyim will support again for equity. Whatever structure evolves in Nigeria, nke ndị Igbo agaghị efu. Enye ndị ebe a, enye ndị ebe a. That is the legacy of Sisi Ono. Many provinces now seek statehood. Not many remember that Ono was the champion of state creation for development, not division. With the creation of Enugu State later, Ebonyi, and Adada loading, no one is known to have lost unlawfully a piece of pebble, a piece of stone in either state. On the contrary, many non-natives now call Ebonyi and Enugu home. For a city that elected a Fulani meat merchant from 700 miles away in Sokoto province as its first mayor in 1950s, what would drive an Enugu person in power to deprive Igbo brethren from 40 miles down the road of their properties? Powerful propaganda and petty politics polluted the people-oriented policies pushed by Sisi Ono. Yet, he persisted. He knew better. Perception is personal. Stereotyping of society sticks only when stimulated by those in power and left unchallenged by those oppressed. When light meets darkness, darkness dissolves. As stated earlier, many people have stories to tell about Sisi Ono. They range from stories that spread smiles to stories that sow sorrows. From those who pushed and pursued law careers to be like Sisi Ono, to those who dared, dated, and married across the deep Anglican Catholic denomination dichotomy. The lecture series must continue to accommodate these and many other stories that define the great parts of Sisi Ono. Regardless of what the future further reveals of him, Sisi was a mostly misunderstood man. He was misjudged by humans, but he has been vindicated by history. He was an epitome of equity and a juggernaut of justice. He fought the good fight. May the soul of Christian Chukwuma Ono continue to rest peacefully, and may his spirit continue to guide us. I thank Odenibo Vitus Ozoke for keeping the dream alive, and Daddy Orama, Sister Sinachi, Omenka Ejikeze, and all members of Wawa Global. I salute you all. Adeje Jemba, Chairman Banefo, Deje. To our keynote speaker, our special guests, and all who made it to this momentous event, may history judge us right as we continue to say a defiant wawa to iniquity and no way to injustice, thereby making way for peace and progress in our beloved Igbo land, so we all can lead Africa to its divine destination, our destiny. Thank you immensely for listening. Kado Dejen Dalon.